Somewhere on your phone, right now, there is a photograph of someone who is dead. You have not deleted it. You will not delete it. You have deleted 1,000 blurry photos of nothing, but not that one, and you have never once asked yourself why. You would probably say it is sentimental, that it is just a picture, that keeping it costs you nothing. But the real answer is far stranger. That photograph is the newest version of something your species has been doing for at least 400,000 years. Long before writing. Long before farming. Long before anyone could explain what death even was. Your ancestors did not simply leave their dead behind. And what they did instead is one of the strangest things any animal on this planet has ever done. Start with what should have happened. You are a mammal. A body stops moving. It becomes dangerous. It attracts predators. It spreads disease. It rots. Every instinct that kept your ancestors alive should have said one thing: walk away. Most animals do exactly that. A body is left where it falls. The group moves on by nightfall. So why didn't yours? In the hills of northern Spain, there is a cave system called Atapuerca. Deep inside it, at the bottom of a 13-meter vertical shaft, there is a chamber. The Spanish call it Cima de los Huesos, the pit of bones. Inside that pit, researchers led by the paleoanthropologist Juan Luis Arzuaga have recovered the remains of at least 28 individuals. They are roughly 430,000 years old. They are not modern humans. They are ancestors of the Neanderthals with brains not quite like yours. The bones did not wash in. There is no evidence a river carried them there. There is no sign that a predator dragged them down. The bodies of 28 people ended up at the bottom of a shaft that you can only reach by going deep into total darkness and then dropping down. Somebody put them there. Sit with that. 400,000 years ago, someone carried a body they could have abandoned in a world with no light into a cave and let it go into the dark. And there is one more thing in that pit. A single stone hand axe made of quartzite in a beautiful reddish color that appears nowhere else in the site. The researchers nicknamed it Excalibur. It was never used. It shows no wear. A perfect object, useless, placed with the dead. But that is not the strange part. The strange part is what happened next, over and over, on every continent your species walked into. Travel forward to a cave in the mountains of northern Iraq called Shanidar. In the 1950s, the archaeologist Ralph Solecki excavated a Neanderthal there and found something extraordinary in the soil around the body. Clumps of pollen. Not scattered, clustered. Solecki concluded that this Neanderthal had been laid to rest on a bed of flowers, and the story went around the world. The flower burial. Then other scientists pushed back. Pollen can be carried into a cave by wind. It can be tracked in on feet. There is a burrowing rodent in that region, the Persian gourd, which stores flower heads underground, and it may simply have been hoarding. So was it a burial, or was it a rodent? Here is what makes this worth your attention. In recent years, a team from Cambridge, including the paleoanthropologist Emma Pomeroy, returned to Shanidar and excavated a new Neanderthal, known as Shanidar Z. And what they found was that Neanderthals in that cave were repeatedly placing bodies in the same spot, against the same rock formation, across generations. Forget the flowers. That detail was always the smallest part of it. The point is the place. Something in that cave said, "This is where we put them. Not out there. Here." That is not instinct. Instinct does not remember a location across generations. That is a decision held by a group, passed on. And it gets stranger. Roughly 34,000 years ago, on a freezing plain in what is now Russia, at a site called Sungir, a group of humans buried 2 children. Head to head. They were young. Estimates put one around 10 years old, the other perhaps 12. They did not go into the ground empty. Around and upon those 2 bodies, archaeologists counted roughly 10,000 beads carved from mammoth ivory. 10,000, each one drilled by hand. There were carved ivory spears, one of them made from a mammoth tusk that had been somehow straightened. There were fox teeth, hundreds of them, pierced and strung. Now, do the arithmetic your ancestors did without ever writing it down. Experimental archaeologists have tried to recreate those beads with stone tools. The estimates vary, but the work runs into thousands of hours. thousands of hours in an ice age by people who were never more than a few bad days from starving. They took that time, and then they put every bead into the ground and covered it with earth where no living person would ever see it again. Ask yourself, what kind of animal does that? A rational animal maximizes calories. A rational animal keeps the ivory, trades the ivory, wears the ivory. Your ancestors buried it with 2 children on a frozen plain. Something had already happened inside the human mind, something that made a body more valuable than food. So what was it? To understand, you have to understand what a dead body actually does to a brain like yours. Your brain is a prediction machine. It builds a model of every person you know, their voice, their walk, the shape of their face, what they will say when you say something first. That model runs constantly, quietly, under everything. And here is the cruel part. That model does not switch off when the person stops breathing. The body is right there. The face is right there. Every signal your brain has ever used to say that is them is still present, and every signal that says they will respond is gone. Your brain cannot resolve it, so it does the only thing it can do. It keeps waiting. This is not a poetic idea. You can watch it in other species. The primatologist Jane Goodall documented a young chimpanzee named Flint after the death of his mother, Flo. He stopped eating. He stopped interacting. He returned again and again to the place where she had died. Within weeks, he was dead too. Chimpanzee mothers have been observed carrying dead infants for days, sometimes weeks, grooming a body long past the point where any signal is coming back. The grief is not the human invention. The grief is old, much older than you. What humans did was something else. Humans built a solution. Because there is a second problem, and it belongs to you alone. Somewhere in the deep past, your ancestors' brains crossed a threshold. They became able to simulate the future, to picture themselves next season, next winter, next year. And the moment you can imagine your own future, you can imagine it ending. You are the animal that knows it will die. The psychologist Ernest Becker built an entire framework around this, arguing that the human awareness of death is a terror so fundamental that culture itself is partly a machine built to manage it. Researchers who followed him, including Sheldon Solomon, Jeff Greenberg, and Tom Pischinsky, tested it in the laboratory. In study after study, they asked people to briefly think about their own death and then watched what changed. What changed was everything. People who had been quietly reminded of their mortality clung harder to their group. They defended their beliefs more aggressively. They wanted the things they belonged to last. The researchers called it mortality salience. You can call it something simpler. When you are reminded that you end, you reach for something that does not. Now look back at that pit in Spain, and the beads in the ice, and the same rock in the same cave for generation after generation, and see what they actually are. They are not disposal. They are the opposite of disposal. A funeral is a machine for keeping someone, and once you see that, you cannot stop seeing it. At a 9,000-year-old settlement in Turkey called Catalhoyuk, excavated for decades by the archaeologist Ian Hodder and his teams, people did not put their dead outside the village. They buried them under the floors of their own houses, under the sleeping platforms. People slept, ate, argued, and raised children directly above the bones of their grandparents. The dead were not sent away. They were kept in the room. Elsewhere, and far more recently, humans went the other direction entirely. In Zoroastrian tradition, the dead were placed on high towers and given to the birds. On the Tibetan plateau, sky burial does something similar. To your eyes, it might look like abandonment. It is not. It is a precise, ritualized offering, performed by specialists according to rules. Cremation burns the body away completely, and then people keep the ashes on a shelf, in a house, in a box that they will not let anyone move. Look at the range of it. Buried, burned, sunk, exposed, mummified, dissolved, scattered. Almost every physical thing that can be done to a body, some human culture has done. But do you notice what is missing from that list? Nothing. No culture, anywhere, at any time has simply done nothing. Not one. There is always a rule. There is always a thing you are supposed to do, and a right way to do it, and a deep unease when it is done wrong. That is the fingerprint. That is the 400,000-year-old instruction, still running. And it is running in you. You have seen it. A family arguing bitterly over what he would have wanted. A person who cannot enter a room where someone died. A grave visited every year by someone who does not believe anyone is listening. You have watched people stand and speak to a stone. None of that is irrational. It is the oldest technology your species has. When the brain cannot let a person go, the culture gives you a place to put them. A ritual, an object, a location, a photograph. Your ancestors carried bodies into darkness because a body was too important to leave outside. You keep a photograph for the same reason. So the next time your thumb stops on that face in your camera roll, understand exactly what you are doing and how old it is. Somewhere on your phone, there is a photograph of someone who is dead. You have not deleted it, and you never will. 400,000 years ago, in a cave in Spain, someone put down a perfect stone axe they had never used and walked back up into the light. They could not delete it either.